Chapter 1 from Tolkien, a Biography by Humphrey Carpenter, published 1977. Chapter 1 A Visit. It is mid-morning on a spring day in 1967. I have driven from the centre of Oxford, over Magdalen Bridge, along the London Road, and up a hill into the respectable but dull suburb of Headington. Near a large private school for girls, I turn left into Sandfield Road, a residential street of two-story brick houses, each with its tidy front garden. Number 76 is a long way down the road. The house is painted white and is partially screened by a tall fence, a hedge, and overhanging trees. I park the car, open the arched gate, go up the short path between rose bushes, and ring the front doorbell. For a long time there is silence, except for the rumble of distant traffic in the main road. I am beginning to think of ringing again, or of turning away, when the door is opened by Professor Tolkien. He is slightly smaller than I expected. Tallness is a quality of which he makes much in his books, so it is a little surprising to see that he himself is slightly less than the average height. Not much, but just enough to be noticeable. I introduce myself, and, since I made this appointment in advance and am expected, the quizzical and somewhat defensive look that first met me is replaced by a smile. A hand is offered, and my own is firmly grasped. Behind him I can see the entrance hall, which is small and tidy, and contains nothing that one would not expect in the house of a middle-class elderly couple. W. H. Auden, in an injudicious remark quoted in the newspapers, has called the house hideous. But that is nonsense. It is simply ordinary and suburban. Mrs. Tolkien appears for a moment to greet me. She is smaller than her husband, a neat old lady, with white hair bound close to her head, and dark eyebrows. Pleasantries are exchanged, and then the professor comes out of the front door and takes me into his office at the side of the house. This proves to be the garage. Long abandoned by any car, he explains that he has not had a car since the beginning of the Second World War, and since his retirement, made habitable and given over to the housing of books and papers formerly kept in his college room. The shelves are crammed with dictionaries, works on etymology and philology, and editions of texts in many languages, predominant among which are Old and Middle English and Old Norse. But there is also a section devoted to translations of The Lord of the Rings into Polish, Dutch, Danish, Swedish, and Japanese, and the map of his invented Middle-earth is pinned to the window ledge. On the floor is a very old portmanteau full of letters, and on the desk are ink bottles, nibs and pen holders, and two typewriters. The room smells of books and tobacco smoke. It is not very comfortable, and the professor apologizes for receiving me here, but he explains that there is no space in the study bedroom in the house where he actually does his writing. He says that, in any case, this is all temporary. Soon he will, he hopes, manage to finish at least the major part of the work promised to his publishers. And then he and Mrs. Tolkien will be able to move to more comfortable quarters and congenial surroundings, away from visitors and intrusions. He looks slightly embarrassed after the last remark. I climb past the electric fire, and at his bidding, seat myself in a wheel-back chair, as he takes his pipe from the pocket of his tweed jacket, and launches into an explanation of his inability to spare me more than a few minutes. A shiny blue alarm clock ticks noisily across the room, as if to emphasize the point. He says that he has to clear up an apparent contradiction in a passage of The Lord of the Rings that has been pointed out in a letter from a reader. The matter requires his urgent consideration, as a revised edition of the book is about to go to press. He explains it all in great detail, talking about his book not as a work of fiction, but as a chronicle of actual events. He seems to see himself not as an author who has made a slight error that must now be corrected or explained away, but as a historian who must cast light on an obscurity in a historical document. Disconcertingly, he seems to think that I know the book as well as he does. I have read it many times, but he is talking about details that mean little or nothing to me. I begin to fear that he will throw some penetrating question at me that will reveal my ignorance. And indeed, now he does ask me a question. But fortunately, it is rhetorical, and clearly requires no more than the answer yes. I am still nervous that there will be other and harder questions, doubly nervous because I cannot hear everything that he is saying. He has a strange voice, deep but without resonance, entirely English but with some quality in it that I cannot define, as if he had come from another age or civilization. Yet for much of the time he does not speak clearly. Words come out in eager rushes. Whole phrases are elided or compressed in the haste of emphasis. Often his hand comes up and grasps his mouth, which makes it even harder to hear him. He speaks in complete sentences, scarcely hesitating. But then there comes a long pause, in which I am surely expected to reply. Reply to what? If there was a question, I did not understand it. Suddenly he resumes, never having finished his sentence, and now he reaches an emphatic conclusion. As he does so, he jams his pipe between his teeth, speaks on through clenched jaws, and strikes a match just as the full stop is reached. Again, I struggle to think of an intelligent remark, and again he resumes before I can find one. Following some slender connecting thread, he begins to talk about a remark in a newspaper that has made him angry. Now I feel that I can contribute a little, and I say something that I hope sounds intelligent. He listens with courteous interest, and answers me at some length, turning my remark, which was really very trivial, to excellent use, and so making me feel that I have said something worth saying. Then he is off on some tangential topic, and I am once more out of my depth, able to contribute no more than a monosyllable of agreement here and there, though it does occur to me that I am perhaps valued just as much as a listener as a participant in the conversation. As he talks, he moves unceasingly, pacing about the dark little room with an energy that hints at restlessness. He waves his pipe in the air, knocks it out with an ashtray, fills it, strikes a match, but scarcely ever smokes more than a few puffs. He has small, neat, wrinkled hands, with a plain wedding ring on the third finger of the left hand. His clothes are a little rumpled, but they sit well on him, and though he is in his 76th year, there is only a suggestion of tubbiness behind the buttons of his colored waistcoat. I cannot for long keep my attention from his eyes, which may wander about the room or stare out of the window, yet now and then will return to dart a glance at me, or rest a steady gaze as some vital point is made. They are surrounded by wrinkles and folds that change with and emphasize each mood. The flood of words has dried up for a moment, and the pipe is being lit again. I perceive my opportunity, and state my business, which now seems unimportant. Yet he turns to me immediately with enthusiasm, and listens to me attentively. Then, when this part of the conversation is done, I get up to go, but for the moment my departure is evidently neither expected nor desired, for he has started to talk again. Once more he refers to his own mythology. His eyes fix on some distant object, and he seems to have forgotten that I am there, as he clutches his pipe and speaks through its stem. It occurs to me that in all externals he resembles the archetypal Oxford Don, at times even the stage caricature of a Don. But that is exactly what he is not. It is rather as if some strange spirit has taken on the guise of an elderly professor, The body may be pacing this shabby little suburban room, but the mind is far away, roaming the plains and mountains of Middle-earth. Then it is all over, and I am being ushered out of the garage and taken to the garden gate, the smaller one opposite the front door. He explains that he has to keep the garage gates padlocked to stop football spectators parking their cars in his drive when they attend matches at the local stadium. Rather to my surprise, he asks me to come and see him again. Not for the moment, as neither he nor Mrs. Tolkien has been well, and they are going on holiday to Bournemouth, and his work is many years behindhand, and letters are piling up unanswered. But sometime, soon. He shakes my hand and is gone a little forlornly back into the house. Thank you for listening.